So good morning, everyone. Welcome. Today is June 12th, 2024. I'm going to call to order the Camino Real Regional Ability Authority Board of Directors. It is 9:04 a.m. Raymond, can you do roll call and then advise whether or not there are any public comments?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Mr. Reyes?
Here.
Ms. Bettis?
She's not here.
Here.
Oh,
Ms. Bettis is online. Thank you. And so we do have a quorum.
okay.
And no comments received from the public.
Okay, good. And if other members should come in, let's make sure we acknowledge them as present for the record too, please. So looking at the second item, the minutes for the May 8th, 2024 meeting, I'll ask the board members to let me know if you have any questions or comments. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
I move to approve.
I have a motion? No, he moved.
Second.
All right, Monica, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Aye.
Number 3, the presentation and update on the Camino Real Regional Ability Authority Senior Lien Vehicle Registration Fee Revenue Refunding Bonds, Series 2024. Robert, is that you?
Yes, ma'am. IT, if you could bring up the PowerPoint. Great, thank you. So the Finance Committee is not due to meet until July, and I will go over more in depth with them, but I did want to give the board an update as we have completed the transaction and just let you know where we stand with things.
Sure.
So first we'll do a little refresher of who's on the financing team and the timeline. We'll talk about the pricing that took place, closing, and then we'll wrap up and then we'll have time for questions, but please interrupt me with any questions as we go. So just a reminder of who was on the finance team. The first 3 have been the RMA's financing team since inception with Hilltop and Norton Rose Fulbright as our bond counsel. For this transaction, we used Ramirez as the senior or lead underwriter, and then we had Piper Sandler as the co-underwriter. And then BNY Mellon, who serves as the trustee on the original issuance, continues to serve as trustee. So a reminder of the timeline. In February, the board selected a pool of underwriters from which we selected the syndicate that was just mentioned on the last slide. In April, several things took place. The county approved the Transportation Project Pledge Agreement amendment. So we've amended that several times, but they approved that. That gave us comfort in going out and continuing on this transaction. The board approved the preliminary offering statement, the bond resolution, and the supplemental indenture at our April board meeting. And then a couple weeks later, the RMA and our underwriters, our financial advisors, we met with S&P Global Ratings to review the ratings of the rating of the bonds, which was maintained at AA-. On May 6th, we posted the POS. That's significant because that's the marketing period where the underwriters are then making their phone calls, talking to folks, but we've basically alerted the market that we're going to be issuing debt. Originally, we had planned to issue on the 15th, but we moved it up a day. And so on the 14th, you see that we priced, and then also the lead underwriter, Ramirez, authorized the bond purchase agreement, basically guaranteeing that they would fulfill their role as the underwriter. On June 5th, we had the closing. So think about like closing on your mortgage or something. You got to sign some documents, but that actually completed the transaction. And then, and we'll talk about this more later, on August 29th, we will actually refund the 2014 bonds. So we've so far issued the 2024. We need to still refund the 2014, and we'll talk about that more in a second. So as I mentioned, originally we had planned to price the bonds on May 15th. As we got closer to that date, the underwriters and our financial advisor pointed out that a CPI report was going to be released that morning, right before we were going to enter the market. And their suggestion to us was, listen, that could increase yields and we would have to pay more and therefore less savings. So let's go a day early to avoid any kind of market frothing that may have happened. Looked like it was good. Market immediately jumped and then came back down, but it wasn't crazy, but it could have cost us a few basis points, and so it was a good decision, good recommendation from the financing team. As we opened the market, orders started coming in, and I'll show you on a subsequent slide, there was clear preference from the investors for longer duration. So as a reminder, we have maturities from 2026 through 2039 that we were putting out there. We did not refund the maturities from 2040 through 2044, so the oldest maturities from the original issuance remain outstanding. We're basically restructuring the ones between now and 2039. Investors were more interested at the longer end than the short end. The short end is impacted by Fed rates, more sensitive to it, so they were more interested in that. We did have 2.6% or 2.6 times oversubscription, and because of that, we were able to lower the yields 2 to 3 basis points on most of the maturities. So here's me at my first bond issuance. The underwriters took a good picture, but I think the important thing to note is in the background, you see the blue and the red, and then there's a black line on each of these. That black line is what is the maturity dollar amount. Oh, we're getting a screen that's bouncing out on us. So you can see as we go out further, and this is 2039, and this is 2026, more interest coming in on those outlying years. The red were the first bid that we received from our co-underwriter, Piper Sandler. So they stepped in right away and said, we're interested in purchasing. But because we had this oversubscription, again, we were able to bring down yields, and that saved us some money. We won't have to pay out as much interest, and it means a better savings for us. So on the left-hand side is a table that shows the projected savings. Again, projected because we're talking if VRF revenues remain flat. They will not be flat. They will be up a little bit, down a little bit from year to year, but if they just remain flat from what they were in 2023. So the far left is the date. The second column is the prior debt service, all of it right around $3.4 million. And then the new debt service in the next column, and that's the column that I think you'll want to focus on. So that it has, you can see the first 2 years are well below the prior 3.4, and then if you look at the remaining years, we're still right at about 3.4 million. That's because we front-loaded the savings, as we discussed. The county agreed with that. And you can see in the fourth column, the savings, about 1.75 million in year one, which is next fiscal year, and about 432,000 the following. We have virtually no savings in the other years. It's marginal at best. And so that is, we had told you from the outset that we were looking to save at least 1.5 million. We're a little over 2.2 million in what we're saving, and so it's good. Market worked well for us, and we didn't want to overpromise and underdeliver. So the closing, as I mentioned, took place on June 5th. It's like your mortgage, you got to go sign papers and it says who's doing what, banks sending money in. So that happened. The bonds for 2024 were delivered to the new purchasers, investors. The trustee paid costs of issuance, underwriters, bond counsel, that sort of thing. And then the remaining funds were put in an escrow account. And so this is where it gets a little technical. And like I said, I'm going to spend more time with the board, but I just want to let you know, as of today, we have the original debt on our books and we have the new debt because we're not going to pay off the old debt until August 29th. So it will happen during this fiscal year, but right now we technically have both, and that's just a weird thing where you have 90 days to actually pay it off. So with interest rates high, we're taking what we received from the underwriter, put it in an escrow, bought some investments, and we'll use those investments that we're going to make to get up to exactly what we need to pay it off. So we were able to issue less in effect. So it was a good transaction for us, and a good piece of advice from our financial advisor of saying, hey, look, this will save you money, a few $100,000. So that's a strategy that we did. I'm sorry. So just to wrap up, proceeds plus the interest earned in the escrow account will be used to redeem the original bonds on August 29th. The projected savings, if VRF revenues remain flat, about $2.1, $2.2 million realized in those first 2 years, next fiscal year and the fiscal year immediately following that. And how we were able to do that is we basically, not only did we refund the debt, but we restructured it. And so we have no principal payment next year, and we have a smaller principal payment in 2026. And then we're basically amortizing it beyond those years. But that's how we structured it to get the savings up front. So if you walk away with anything, know that 2.2 million in savings, and the way we were able to do that was by restructuring the debt. No debt service payment or no principal payment next year. We'll only pay interest, and the year after that it'll be smaller, and then we'll be kind of normalized going forward. And there's even more detail than that I'll get into with the Finance Committee at our July meeting. But wanted to provide you all an update. Successful transaction, went better than we thought, but that's all I have for you. Any questions?
No, very good. Any questions? Well, I'll rely on the Finance Committee to go do your due diligence and make sure everything's in order, but I think you did a good job, and it's good that we got that kind of savings and be helpful for us going forward, so thank you. Is there any
Yes, ma'am.
action on our part?
No, ma'am, no action.
Okay. I just want, for the record, to know that Ms. Bird is here, too. All right, so then we'll,
One question, who's our bond counsel?
Norton Rose Fulbright.
Paul Braden, right?
Paul Braden with
Yeah.
Norton Rose Fulbright, yes. And he's been with the Army, I believe, since inception.
Yeah, he's been the city's bond counsel for a long time. He's real good.
He's based in Austin, but he's originally from El Paso.
He had his own firm here, and then he kind of merged and moved, but he's done work for us for a long time. He may have a small office here.
Thank you all.
All right, let's move on to item 4. Discussion and action on board resolutions authorizing the execution of the following instruments as they relate to the El Paso County Transit Procurement Project. 4A, interlocal agreement with El Paso County. 4B, work authorization number 68 with Adkins North America, Inc.
Thank you. Raymond Tejas, Executive Director of the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority. So as read into the record, this is an item that we've been working on with the county for some time. I'm ultimately going to ask that you delete this item, unfortunately, but it's because we're restructuring the way that we're going to provide this support to the county. So, but I did want to give you some background before we do that. As you know, the county operates a transit system, and they've since created a local government corporation, which includes additional partners like City of Socorro and Town of Horizon City. And so that LGC, that local government corporation, is now intended to run transit through all of the unincorporated portions of the county and eventually, hopefully, develop some relationship with Sun Metro. They are looking for an operations provider. And so they've asked us if we could provide some support in the selection process. So originally we had a structure laid out, which you see here under item number 4. The county attorneys yesterday raised some concerns with this approach, so I'm meeting with the county folks next week to restructure it. I think we have the way forward, but unfortunately we couldn't get it together in time for today. But ultimately we will be supporting the LGC as well as the County of El Paso in providing operations support to their transit system. So I'm excited to expand our expertise into transit here before too long. So hopefully I'll be back in July with a restructured format that works for everybody. So I would just ask for a motion to delete this item.
So moved.
I second it.
Okay, so we have Monica moved, Mr. Reyes seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you. Phase 1 of the Sun Cycle Bike Share Fleet Enhancement Project.
Okay, this item, as read into the record, deals with Sun Cycle. You may recall we came to you all back in 2022. We were asking for authorization to seek grant funding from the TASA program. We received approval from the El Paso Metropolitan Planning Organization for 2 funding cycles, one in fiscal year 24, which we're in right now, and a second grant fund in fiscal year 25. And that's roughly about $100,000 worth of grant funds that we received. And we will use those to procure new e-bikes and batteries and that sort of thing for our system. So we'll start replacing some of those old red bikes that have been in operation since day one with some brand new e-bikes through this program. So again, 2 grant awards, $100,000 in this fiscal year, another $100,000 next fiscal year. This is a program that is managed by TxDOT, so that requires advanced funding agreements between us and TxDOT to receive those funds. So what you see before you as item number 5 is a board resolution asking for authorization to sign the first advanced funding agreement for the first 100,000. So happy to answer any questions, otherwise I would recommend approval of this item.
Okay, any questions, comments? I'll call for a motion.
So move.
I have a motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion
Aye.
passes. Moving on to item 6, discussion and action on a board resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to work authorization number 3 with Moreno Cardenas, Inc. for the Montwood Drive Extension Project.
As a reminder on this one, the Montwood project is a joint project being pursued by El Paso County, the City of El Paso, and of course the RMA. We are currently doing the design work for the County of El Paso. The county agreed to provide design services. The city agreed to manage construction and ultimately would be the owner of the Montwood extension. So today we've got an amendment that will change the scope of the design services. So CEA is the design firm that we're utilizing, one of our local firms here as part of our IDC program. Oh, thank you, MCI, thanks. I said CEA, but this is MCI, another local firm that's part of our IDC program. So MCI is providing the design services here. Originally, we included environmental activities in the scope. We don't need those for this particular project based on how we're developing it. So we're removing those scope items from the work authorization and replacing them with additional landscaping activities that were requested by the city as the ultimate owner. So that's what you see before you as item number 6. It's an amendment to the work authorization with Moreno Cardenas. So that's what I have for you. Would recommend approval.
I've got a question. I don't understand this tripartite agreement between city and county, and then we're involved with the county. Is this the first time we've done that?
This is the first time we've been involved in a project like this. So originally it started with the county, where the county, in a very similar format to what we've been doing for years now, they asked us to develop the design plans for them. So we're using county funds, and we're designing and working with the county to develop those design plans. But the relationship between the city and the county developed because I think ultimately this roadway will go through land that will be annexed by the city. So the city will ultimately be the owner for this parcel. So they started partnering very early, and the city agreed to handle the construction side. So the city will handle the construction, but the city has actually asked us to manage the right-of-way acquisition, because there's a number of parcels that will need to be purchased, and we've started that process as well. So we're working for the county for design, working for the city on right-of-way acquisition, and ultimately the city then, once the design is complete and the right-of-way is acquired, the city will then manage construction. First time we've done it quite like this.
I was gonna say, is this going smoothly? It sounds like is this going smoothly?
So far, so good, yes. The design is actually going really well. The city, we're moving forward on the acquisition. Everything seems to be moving smoothly.
It reminds me of the guy that jumped off the 15-story building. And at the 10th story, his compadre said, "How's it going?" He said, "So far, so good."
Yep, it's going well. I'll just say it that way.
Okay. This is a first for us, so I'd be interested for us to kind of follow that thread, see where it goes.
Yes, sir. I'll keep you posted.
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 7, presentation, update, and discussion on the following programs or projects. A, the Borderland Expressway Project. B, the 2013 El Paso County Comprehensive Mobility Plan. And C, the 2024 RMA Strategic Planning Session. So we'll start with A.
Yes, ma'am. Borderland Expressway. This one, we had a meeting actually requested by Representative Ordaz. She asked for all of the stakeholders from the Borderland Mobility Coalition to get back together and provide an update. So we met at TxDOT TxDOT gave us a great update on where they are in terms of advancing phase one of this particular project, and we talked about all the different, the subsequent phases and where those are, and we talked a little bit about how the RMA has been talking to the city of El Paso about its transportation reinvestment zone number 3 and whether it can play a role in this particular project. So it was a really good project to get reacquainted with the former coalition members. So I think as evidenced by TxDOT moving phase one, the project is ongoing, and we're hoping to help out with phases 2 and 3. Mr. Smith was there as well, so I'd ask if you have any additional comments.
And Congressman Reyes was there as well, and I thought it was a very, very good meeting. And it was interesting to hear the height of TxDOT's anticipation for additional funding coming, and then Representative Ordaz's purpose for that meeting is she is on the Transportation Committee now for the House, and is putting together her agenda for that. And so she really absorbed all that information, and said it was very helpful to her, and she discussed that she wants to continue to keep her finger on that pulse to get that project done as soon as she can. And I was impressed by the level of the TxDOT engagement in all of this, and their positive attitude toward, and their positive feeling towards getting the additional funding needed to specifically do phase 2. So to refresh you, phase 2 is everything except the Fort Bliss portion, and phase 3 is the Fort Bliss portion.
And one other thing that I might mention is, she had her chief of staff there for the first time, so.
This was new for chief of staff, who is relatively new in that position. It was new for her first time to El Paso, and it was a really good indoctrination for her. She's very, very sharp, and seemed like it was really a positive meeting, and it was good to be part of that.
I have a question, not on this, but on, I saw yesterday where they announced a new connector from Santa Teresa Port of Entry to Sunland Park for commercial traffic. Did we get a heads up on that, or what, what do we know about that?
Not directly. It's come before the MPO a few times, and also we're part of the El Paso Mobility Coalition, so we've heard about it from there as well. But I can provide you some additional information if you're interested.
I'd like to know,
Sure.
because we had not gotten any, or at least I had not heard any update on that. But I agree with it in concept in terms of increasing or decreasing the load on what would be the Borderland Expressway and
Well,
maybe I-10.
So I do know there are some concerns being raised by the city of El Paso and the MPO because of the amount of traffic that would be coming eastbound through Santa Teresa Sunland Park, and what that would do to Doniphan and that sort of thing. So I know that there are some concerns there, coupled with the fact that TxDOT is investing so heavily in expanding I-10 west, plus the new direct connectors at Artcraft. They're doing that to support that port of entry, yet the port of entry now is going to have a different way. So I know that those concerns have been raised, but I don't know where New Mexico is with any of those concerns.
It would be good to have Jerry Pacheco give us because he's real good with projecting the growth of Santa Teresa and
Right.
how it's affected by San Jeronimo and that particular area.
Right.
So
Would you like us to have him
what do you?
brief?
No?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I can give him a call.
Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have. So on item B, that plan is provided as part of your backup. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll move to item C, which is the strategic planning session. As you know, we're required to do strategic planning every 2 years, so we're up for it again this summer. I assume, and I'm open to it, but normally we would tie strategic planning to a board meeting date. So our next 2 board meeting dates are July 10th and August 14th, so I'm looking for some input from you all, whether you'd like to continue that practice and select one of these dates for our next planning session. I will tell you, I've spoken with Tracy Yellen, who's run our last few strategic planning sessions, and she's interested and willing to participate in this one as well. I believe so. So I sent her those dates, and she didn't object to either of them, so.
I turn it off when I'm not talking so that I'll make noise over here. I would like to have an update on where we're at with the current one first, and so maybe we could do that at the next meeting in July, and then do the planning session itself in August. Is everyone here in August? As far as you know, the 14th?
Yes.
That was July, huh?
July 10th would be the update, but I
Mhm.
can provide an update on the
In
last one.
August?
And August 14th would be the actual planning session.
Are you here, Ms.
Hi.
Byrd?
I think it'd be pretty important to get our new members on board by then if it's possible. Can
What is
we,
the holdup on
huh?
that?
We don't
I
know.
talked to the mayor and he said it was up to us.
No, we don't have any say in it. They have to approve it.
I checked in again with the mayor's admin yesterday, and she said she hadn't heard on it in quite some time, so she was gonna follow up, so I'll let you know what I hear back from her.
He's supposed to solicit names, and I know you all provided him a name.
Yeah.
And that's happened, so procedurally, the mayor has to send out a letter to the city council and ask for names within a 2-week period. Once that period is done, then the mayor is able to place a name or 2 on the subsequent agenda. So I think the process is complete, it's just a matter of identifying something.
Well, maybe you could follow up and say that we want to have a strategic planning session. It would be really helpful if we had if there's a new member, that they were appointed. Well, that's the typical.
We said yes.
Yeah.
We're the ones that gave him the name.
I know.
We don't even know the other ones.
I can do that. So
All right,
I'll follow
thanks.
up and so
Yeah,
then,
And there was a renewal too that,
that's
for
right,
Laura that had to be done?
that's right. So Laura's in holdover right now.
So that was in February, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's like June.
I'll follow
Okay,
up.
thank you.
So as I'm hearing it then, so you'd like an update from me in July on
Mhm.
the prior.
Yeah, where we're at, like what our goals were, what we achieved. If we didn't, what are the things we really didn't achieve? And,
And then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
actual session in August.
Yeah.
Our August action items.
Okay.
Okay, I will schedule that.
we're gonna do it here.
Yes, ma'am. We did it in this room last time. So I think Robert and I were looking at this recently. We will post 2 agendas. One will be the normal work session, and then a second agenda 30 minutes later for a planning session. We'll do it in this room as well.
Okay. That sounds good. All right, thank you.
That's all I have for you for item 7.
Just real quick, I was thinking about August, we will have the budget, and we'll also have executive directors review, which will need to be an executive session. So just on August, plan for a longer meeting
Are
overall.
we gonna do it here?
In this room? We have done that in the past.
Our planning session too?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and we've
Okay.
done breakout sessions where we've moved the tables and.
All right,
that
no
sort of thing.
problem.
What would be our time block for that?
Till
In
noon?
In August?
So probably till
9 to
noon.
noon.
I think we normally get through our agendas an hour, hour and a half at the longest.
So 9 to noon.
Mhm. I think
Why
that
don't we
should do
just
it.
keep the agenda just short on things that we have to approve. Limit other presentations on the 14th. So on the executive, well, I want to get, if that's all done in August, All right,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
Could we look at,
Is Norman gonna get with me to, is Norman doing,
So Norman notified us last year that he was
done?
done, and so we've identified a possible new person, and we've contacted him, and we'll be in contact with you here before long.
So, okay.
I think we could push that to September and just retroactively adjust any changes that we
do you
need
think we
to.
could move it to July, or is that too short a time frame to get? Well, let us look at it. We'll see if we can't move the evaluation to either July or September, or we'll work on some options and provide them to you.
I just
for
want to know,
input.
I want to make sure we have enough lead time to get the instrument out to people so everybody can put their input in and then get it tabulated like we normally do, so,
Okay,
okay.
we'll
I mean,
look at
sometimes Norman
timelines.
was like late on that too, but if he's not doing it this year, then whoever it is, just tell him, let's get it done in a timely manner.
Yeah, we'll use Kemp Smith this year. They've got somebody who's been handling the MPO, and they just went through a similar process with Eduardo Calvo.
Okay, well, that's good.
So there should be some, we should be in good shape.
And actually, on our strategic planning session, I'm not sure there's anything major in terms of new initiatives. I mean, we had our goals were really to expand our footprint. And, I mean, that's why I'd like to have an update, because, you know, we're doing a whole lot now with all of the smaller jurisdictions. We're doing a lot with the county. We're doing more with TxDOT, and those were things we weren't doing this time 2 years ago. I mean, we were kind of trying to do them. And so that's what I'd really like to focus on, like where have we really expanded our footprint? What are like the new and different kind of projects that we've been able to undertake? So, because when you see them come in, I mean, I think everybody notices them. I see when they come in, I'm like, oh, that's really great. We're doing this with Socorro, and oh, that's great. We're doing a TRZ with San Eli, and oh, I'm really excited. We're out in Benton and Canatia doing stuff, and a lot of work in Horizon. So I'd really kind of like for us maybe to like on a map say these are, you know, we got the Tornillo Airport activity out there, like what all the stuff where our footprint is, and then where are the opportunities maybe we haven't tapped into yet. I mean, we've talked about maybe trying to get out to Hudspeth and outside of El Paso County, and we've looked at that being a possibility. The thing with New Mexico that just came up, we've not really done a lot with them. There's some opportunity to work with them on some things that, like Sunland Park and stuff that aren't necessarily in Texas. But we have the ability to do that. I'm sure they're small. They could probably use some help. Things like that. And then the other big thing is sort of our communications. You know, like how often are we communicating with stakeholders, the public, things that we're doing, about what we're doing here, who we are, what we're doing, the impact we've had on the community. You know, we've done a lot of projects. They've all come on time. You know, typically within budget, under budget, we'd be able to add things, and so I don't know that we're communicating that as well as we could. And that was also one of our goals. So I'd kind of like to see what we've done, and then maybe look at, like, I don't know what new initiatives we would really want to take on at this point. More just like refining things, so.
You may recall in January, we did a year-end update, which I think has a map that we can utilize
Yeah.
for this, and we'll really dig more deeply into it as opposed to me just laying it out for you. I can tie it to the strategic plan and the prior strategic plan and show you exactly what we've done in response to those.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful just to walk through that, spend time on that before we get into a planning session.
Sure.
That way we kind of digest where we're at and then move forward from there.
Sure.
Okay.
We'll do it over 2 months.
And then make sure Tracy has that as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'll do that.
Okay.
I like the idea, what you brought up about maybe reaching out to Sunland Park. Since they're a pretty small entity like we have to some of the other Texas entities, to see if we could help them out in any way with some of the stuff they're doing.
Sure. Yeah, we've done that historically. They do have turnover a lot with their
Have we
city
done
manager.
anything with that, with anybody, like Sunland Park before?
We've tried a couple of times. They have a trail system that they were getting ready to launch that we tried to assist with, but again, there's just a lot of turnover and that sort of thing. But yeah, we can keep trying that, and we can add that to our next strategic planning session, period.
Well, the other thing is if we meet with Jerry Pacheco and have conversations with him, maybe we could just explain to him some things we could do to assist that whole, like, Donna Anya region with some infrastructure project development and execution that can maybe help some of these projects get done quicker and faster and, you know, get
Yeah.
launched better.
I do think that would be helpful to have a champion within New Mexico.
Yeah, somebody who's,
Agreed.
yeah,
So I think yeah, I agree.
okay.
Well, back in 2000, there's actually a placeholder in that year's transportation bill in Congress, because I supported Joe Skeen, who wanted to have that placeholder for a bridge connecting Sunland Park to I-10. So that should be there just pending, hopefully just funding. But that would be one thing we could pursue with,
Okay.
directly with Sunland Park. And that's been there for 14 years
Okay.
or more, what, 24 years? Help me out,
20,
John.
20 years now.
20 years, yeah.
I want that 20 toes and bigger.
Okay,
All right, good.
got it. Thank you.
So moving on to item 8, discussion and action on the following items as they relate to the Pelicano Drive widening project. A, status update on the project. B, board resolution authorize execution of amendments 4 and 5 to work authorization number 3 with CEA Engineering Group. And B, board resolutions authorizing execution of amendments number 7 and 8 to work authorization number 27.8 with Atkins North America, Inc.
Okay, thank you. I thought for this item, I would do a brief status update for the public, and then walk you through items 8B and 8C, and then I will ask that we move into executive session to discuss the Pelicano project for this in a little more detail. But for the benefit of the public, just wanted to touch on a few things that I've been touching on for a few months now, and that is our continued coordination with the county. We continue to keep them up to date. I've met more frequently, actually, than any of the prior months with their staff to keep them apprised of our activities. Met with their outside attorney, met with their inside attorneys, with their director of public works, and several other folks. So they know exactly where we are and where we're headed. So that's good. We've really spent a lot of time keeping them up to date. So I think they're in good shape on that front. We did have, as I mentioned in last month's meeting, a motion or a hearing on our motion to dismiss the counterclaim that was submitted by the trustee. If you remember, that was about a $25 million counterclaim from them, and we were successful in that hearing. But I will go into a little more detail with our attorneys. Our attorneys will walk us through that in executive session. So just wanted to note, as a follow-up, May 22nd hearing, we were successful in that hearing. And then the third item wanted to mention is that, and I've touched on this in the past, we have been discussing this project with the surety for quite some time, and we seem to be advancing options that are available to us to restart construction. So that's a positive turn of events on that one as well. And that really leads into items 8B and 8C. So let me go straight into those. And again, we'll get into more detail with the attorney on some of those things that I mentioned in executive session. But item 8B specifically deals with 2 work authorization amendments with CEA Engineering Group. They're the engineering firm that's handling the design side of Pelicano. That first item, that first amendment, number 4, is to extend the design services during construction that CEA provides for this project. As you know, this project has been extended and the timeline continues to extend. But we do need them on board to provide design services during construction as we wade through this process that we're in. So this first item for Amendment 4 is to extend their ability to provide those design services to us. They also provide specific services to the county, so they're a useful, really helpful firm for us to continue. So that's amendment number 4. Amendment number 5 then relates to what I was alluding to earlier, and that is we've asked the engineering firm to repackage the services that need to be completed. So what I mean by that is the original design plan set that they put together, some of that has been completed by the contractor that defaulted, right? So what we need to do is identify what's left. What needs to get completed from the original design plan. So we've asked them under work authorization amendment number 5 to repackage the remaining work that needs to get done, but also that includes going out into the field, identifying the work that was completed but needs to be torn out because of weather or it wasn't done properly and that sort of thing. So this amendment number 5 will do all of that. They will identify the scope of work necessary to complete the project from today. So that's what you see as amendment number 5. Then companion pieces are under item 8C. That's Atkins. As you know, Atkins is our general engineering consultant team that provides oversight and support for this project. So their amendment number 7 is to continue providing traffic control support. So as you know, we took over traffic control because the company was not doing that, and that was one of the reasons we defaulted them, in fact. So we asked Atkins as our general engineering consultant team to bring out traffic control support. We replaced all of those traffic control devices, and we are maintaining those on a day-to-day basis. And that's what you see under amendment number 7 to continue that support. Then item number 8 is a companion to the repackaging of the design plans that I mentioned before. As we've discussed, Atkins provides oversight services for design and construction. So we're asking Atkins to do the oversight of the repackaging of those design plans, and that's what you see under amendment number 8. So that's what I have for you. I would request action on items 8B and 8C for those 4 amendments, and then I would ask that we move into executive session to discuss Pelicano with our attorneys in a little more detail. But I'm happy to answer any questions that I can for now.
You want to take action on this before the executive session?
Yes, ma'am, and that way we won't have any action items after we come back from executive.
Not tied to anything else in the executive session?
No, ma'am, just 8B and 8C would be the action items.
All right, any questions?
How about the county? Do you have any comments you want to make on these additions, these authorizations?
Good morning, Daniel Marquez, El Paso County. We don't have any comments. We are in support of the work authorizations, mostly with CA and Atkins. We have been extremely relying on all their support for the project. It's not just for the revision of the project plans, but as well we are receiving every single week requests for driveway permits, coordination for utilities, everything pertaining to Pelicano. But as you may know, it's a long process, so we are relying on their team, on their support to help the county to complete pretty much those requests. So we are in full support of those amendments.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get a motion for B and C?
Do we need separate, or we
We
just?
can do them together.
Yeah, I so move approval.
I second.
So we have a motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, that concludes our open regular session. We're going to move into executive session, so I'll have to ask everyone who's not directly involved to vacate at this point. The time is 9:47 a.m. on June 12th, 2024, and the Camino Real Regional Mobility Authority Board of Directors will now retire into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of consultation with our attorney. We will reconvene the open meeting upon conclusion of the executive session. Thank you. So it's now 10:17 on June 12, 2024, and the Board of Directors of the RMA is reconvening its open meeting after deliberations in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. The board consulted with his attorney but took no action in executive session. Is there any other business?
No, ma'am.
Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I've got 10:18.
So it's now 10:17 on June 12, 2024, and the Board of Directors of the RMA is reconvening its open meeting after deliberations in executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551071. The board consulted with his attorney but took no action in executive session. Is there any other business?
No, ma'am.
Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I've got 10:18.